All right, Senator Capito, and then if we have nobody else, I'll wrap it up. I have a couple more questions. One of the questions I've already telegraphed, and it's advice you would have for Secretary Buttigieg. And my other question is going to be, so you'll just know it's going to be, is there a question you wish you'd been asked that have not been asked? So, all right, Senator Capito.
Well, thank you all. And I want to kind of end the question on, it's related to the bumblebee, but we had the Director Williams from Fish and Wildlife came to West Virginia, spent a whole day with us. We spent some time with Secretary Riston, we spent some time with our DEP, and then with some of our stakeholders. And I appreciate her visit very much. But it became very apparent that we got a communications problem here, and that's fishing. At this point, it was Fish and Wildlife. But what really struck me in terms of the one federal decision provisions that have been in effect for a while, we simply codified them in this last bill because we know that'll save time and money and hopefully have these concurrent reviews. But, you know, it was almost like, well, Fish and Wildlife has this review, and then, well, we got Corps of Engineers over here, and then we got Federal Highway Administrator here, and then we have West Virginia DOT here, and then we have West Virginia Environmental Protection here. And it just seemed like it was a ping-ponging of responsibility and a lack of communication and not getting to the approvals that you need to get these things moving forward. So Secretary Riston, one federal decision, Mr. Timon talked about it a little bit. Is it actually in effect in your mind? Because now we're talking about if a permitting bill comes up, one of the bases of this permitting bill, we think, might be that one federal decision would be extended to energy projects, grid projects, and all of these other things. We're the test case here in transportation. Is it working? Is it a reality? And what are the problems? Or what are the good things about it?
Well, the good things, it's obvious. It is the framework for the FHWA to be the single point and to be the clearinghouse, if you will. As a Secretary of Transportation, when I assign someone a project, the first thing I do is put somebody in charge, somebody I can hold accountable. And that's what we have to do with this process, is put somebody in charge. You ask if this is working? Absolutely not. It's largely been ignored. We have had discussions at meetings that the acting director was at. There doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency to enact this or to even discuss it very much. The key to this provision in the law is going to be to act quickly and get it in place and address these processes. We have to rebuild trust between the states and these federal agencies, and you're right, the communication is awful. It's a recipe for failure. We have to address these communication issues. And if we can't do that, then we're going to have a predictable result. We're not going to like it, but we're going to have a predictable result. But no, it's absolutely not working. If we are going to wait 2 years into the program to do something that we need on the front end of everything we're doing, how does that make any sense whatsoever? Once again, there's a federal inconsistency there. We've got to do better. We've got to close those communication gaps.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the purpose of the hearing really today, is for us to say, you know, these provisions of, you know, as you said in your opening statement, which I thought was very, very impactful, when you say, you know, we've got a chance here. I mean, you've been around a while. We've got a chance here that you've never seen. And because we have the money. It's not just the time, it's the money. And we also have the will of Congress and of the president to move forward on these things. And I know our governor certainly is very, very active. He wants to build, or he wants to fix and maintain, and I know you got a lot of pressure that way. But if we don't, if we wait to the back end, well, we're going to end up wasting money, number one, because we're going to end up approving things that maybe wouldn't have gotten approved if they'd had the full vetting, because you know how it is. You start to run out of money, so you get a little bit panicky, and you go, okay, we'll do that, and then you find out 2 years later, that wasn't a good idea. And that's how you get, you know, 1.5 miles of Route 35 built, and it stays like that for 25 years until you completed it, thank you very much, just this last year. So I'm very concerned about this because we want to move these projects. We don't want to skirt any of the environmental laws, absolutely. We don't want to endanger a species, but we want to have common sense. So I think communication is, I was impressed to hear that the Secretary of Transportation in Delaware doesn't have the same problem. So maybe this goes to that, that inconsistencies that we've heard about in the hearing. One state can work very well, one state not so well, and then you get inconsistent opinions. And you don't want to go one way if you're not sure in 6 months you're going to get pulled back. For instance, you had the right to be flexible with your funding. You got the funding flex that you wanted in West Virginia, and then you get a letter 3 months later saying you shouldn't be doing that. That makes no sense, and you wonder, is the right hand talking to the left hand? So my thing is, I think this one federal decision is the best way to go. But it has to be implemented, and it has to be, and we I think, are responsible for the oversight to make sure this is happening. So hopefully if we get somebody in place at Federal Highways, that will, because when you don't have anybody in charge, as you said, when you don't have anybody in charge that's really accountable, it makes it more difficult to hold them accountable. So thank you all very much. I'm going to have to run, but I did appreciate everything, and I want to thank my West Virginians for coming across the mountain. Appreciate it. Thank you. On those beautiful roads.